Hi, Virgo. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today to talk about your horoscope for May 2023. It's going to be a huge month. Jupiter is changing signs. Mercury is going direct. Pluto is retrograde. I mean, that's just to name a few things, but we're going to jump into that in a minute. These videos are based on whole sign Western astrology. So I'm talking about Virgo rising. If you don't know your rising sign, you're going to want to go to one of the free birth calculators on the internet. All you need is your exact time of birth and your location, and you can determine that information. This video is also applicable for Virgo moon or Virgo sun, or if you have 3 or more personal planets in the sign of Virgo, it will also be applicable to you, but the house structure will not be the same. The house structure is based on Virgo rising. This is also, when I talk about dates and times, I'm in the Pacific time zone, so please adjust for your location. Well, let's just jump right in with Pluto going retrograde at the beginning of the month, May 1st, 2023 in Aquarius. This is your 6th house, Aquarius, which is the house of work, the house of health, the house of our pets, the house of energies where we process, analyze, and we are of service to others. Pluto retrograding at 0 degrees Aquarius to me feels very significant because Pluto never leaves the 0 degree of Aquarius in the year 2023. In March, Pluto dipped its toe into this house. And now it is retrograding. It will go back into Capricorn in June, revisiting the late degrees 27, 28, 29 of Capricorn, which is your 5th house. And then it will move back into Aquarius in January 2024, and it will stay there until 2044. This really feels like a very liberating energy. By nature, the 6th house rules slavery. We call it employment these days, but it's anywhere where we are purporting energies, where we are of service to others, and yet we are not receiving benefit. That's how I see the idea of what we are enslaved to. So when we look at the 6th house here, we're giving you an opportunity to really revisit how you process what you do in the way of making money. And if it is aligned to your happiness, to your mental health, I think that's super important, because this is the idea of stress is very erosive to the body. It's also erosive to our happiness and the privileges that we give ourselves to enjoy leisure time, pleasure time, to spend time walking our pets, if that's what makes you have fun. I want to offer it this way too, because this 0 degree Aquarius does not necessarily feel like I'm taking action as much as it feels like it's giving me information, and it's starting to encourage me to think towards the future, to reinvent myself, to allow myself to stoke my own hopes, my own dreams. And potentially, you may find, Virgo, that what you're wanting to do is to go from being an employee to an entrepreneur. You may find yourself wanting to birth things in an Aquarian energy on the internet. We are going to see that be more and more the everyday norm. I think we're going to really see in future generations a lot of individual expression, bringing the resources we need to live our everyday lives. So you allowing yourself this privilege of contemplation, of a review of how you would want this, how your everyday would play out if indeed there were no restrictions or no boundaries or no financial restraints. I think that's super important. We have on the 5th of the month, the 2nd eclipse of the season. This is a full moon lunar eclipse. It's also the 2nd eclipse ruled by Mars. The first eclipse was in Aries, Mars ruled, and this one is in Scorpio, where Mars is the co-ruler, and Pluto, that we were just talking about in Aquarius, is the primary ruler. In your 3rd house of self-talk, of what you, and I say self-talk because I really think this is a conversation with yourself. Your ruling planet is currently retrograde in Taurus. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this lunar eclipse is giving us an opportunity to really dig deep into the psychological imprint of our beliefs and the permissions we give ourselves to thrive. This eclipse is happening at 10:34 a.m. again on May 5th. And while the eclipse is taking place, there's some aspects that I think are influencing it. First, the sun, which is directly involved in the eclipse. It's in opposition to Scorpio. So it's going to be in Taurus in your 9th house. The eclipse itself is in your 3rd house. The idea, this is rewriting your belief system in some way. It's giving you an opportunity to really differentiate between what has been and how you've processed it mentally, and now allowing yourself to step into energies where you are inviting in your own emotional comfort needs and an awareness of that. The sun is at 14 degrees in Taurus, making a conjunction to Uranus. Uranus has been traveling through Taurus for quite some time. Taurus is your 9th house. This is taking you into foreign territories, giving you an opportunity to rewrite your ideologies, your philosophies, your beliefs. The Taurus energy is one of bringing comfort, bringing material resources into my experience so that I feel a sense of safety and security. It's very much about growing things and nurturing things and taking my time doing so, understanding that, the process is part of the evolution. So I think this is very powerful. I also want to bring up that Venus is in Gemini during this eclipse, which is in your 10th house of career and public status. Venus rules Taurus, where we're seeing the sun having this conjunction with Uranus. And Venus rules our money, rules our self-worth, it rules our sense of beauty, it rules our voice, it rules food, it rules your comfy pillows on your couch and your bedding. It rules a lot of the things that we strive for as humans in this experience. Venus is initially making, or during this eclipse, is making a square to Neptune in Pisces, and Pisces is your 7th house of partnerships. So there could be a real opportunity to put to bed, put to rest some of the illusions you've had about situations where you potentially have disempowered yourself or enslaved yourself to a situation as if maybe you're the only one that can actually get things done. Pisces by nature is a little bit dreamy. And if for some reason you're in a situation where that 7th house is frustrating you because you want a little bit of realistic energy in there, this will bring that dynamic into full focus and illumination. At the same time, Venus at 27 degrees, which is not only in Gemini, but at the Geminian degree, the degree of how I think, we see it making a sextile to 27-degree Jupiter in Aries. Jupiter's just rounding out its journey through Aries, rediscovering and redefining the self, redefining how I take actions and how I assert myself. For Virgo, Aries is your 8th house. So you've been transforming your beliefs, you've been looking at, and even on, if you're not conscious of it, you've been looking at or feeling on a subliminal level, what controls me? What is the psychological dynamic of what makes me feel like I have to purport certain behaviors, or I have certain duties or obligations to people. And now this is an opportunity to really redefine yourself and allow yourself the privilege of your own wants and desires. Aries is the pioneer. Aries is brave. Aries is passionate. Aries is creative. And sometimes maybe that what you want to create has been eclipsed by your duty and your service. And now is a time to revisit that, and if it's working for you. On the 7th of May, we see Venus entering Cancer, which is your 11th house of hopes and dreams, of networks, of again, this is the house that Uranus rules, the house of innovation and reinvention and futuristic ideologies, meaning how can I look out into the future and make it better? How can I see beyond the box that I'm currently banging around in. And I also believe that Venus in Cancer is bringing in a sense of wanting, like there's a weird feeling of nostalgia for me with this particular transit, as if I want to revisit my friends from my childhood. I want to eat foods and watch television shows and revisit a time in my life that might have even feel a little bit more gentle and naive and easy. My childhood was not easy, and yet I have some very distinct memories that soothe me when I'm feeling my adulting is a little too much. Sometimes I'll even go get Armenian food and reminisce, although I'm always kind of a little disappointed nobody makes yalanchi like my grandmother did. But I digress, because you may enjoy this journey of Venus through Cancer is really going to bring home hearth, self-nurturing, and your inner voice to the forefront. On the 14th, Mercury goes direct in Taurus. This Mercury retrograde for me was very powerful because it was conceived conjunct the moon, meaning that Mercury and the moon were both at 15 degrees Taurus when Mercury started its retrograde. So this 3-week period of time has felt to me as if I was going to review, reevaluate my emotional body and how that emotional body is being nurtured by myself and by those around me. So as Mercury moves direct in Taurus, and Taurus is your 9th house, this is going to contribute to new philosophies, new beliefs, new endeavors that you start. Because you've reviewed things in a way that may potentially want to take you, because the 9th house rules higher education. You may find yourself wanting to endeavor education classes, certifications that move your story forward or enable you to maybe even do a tandem road where you're continuing your day job while you're transforming and you're evolving into something that is more authentic to your heart and can also bring bounty to your wallet. We have on the 17th, Jupiter entering your 10th house for your 9th house for quite some time. It's going to enter this house, and it's a year-long transit. It could be a little bit longer with the retrogrades, but this is where I feel like I'm very much nurturing a new dynamic of my beliefs. It can also bring new businesses to the forefront. The 9th house by nature rules businesses, social sciences, geography, literally moving from one location to another, endeavoring, different experiences, foreign philosophies and cultures and ideologies, and all of these new belief systems could very well be opening up a whole new opportunity for you to anchor in something that is more authentic to who you have evolved into versus where you were maybe when you started your career. I think this is super important because we are going to see that Gemini influence in your 10th house. So Venus is moving into Cancer in your 11th house. Jupiter has moved into Taurus, your 9th house. Now, as Jupiter does this, it is making a square to Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. And Pluto here again is offering you this renovation in your beliefs, offering you a whole new set of ideologies where you start to contemplate things from a much more empowered, fruitful, and prosperous place. But initially, it may feel challenging because, again, Virgo rules being of service to others, and that might create a conflict because you may initially feel if I'm not doing for you, then I'm being selfish. But I think this is the real renovation. We also will see as Jupiter enters Taurus, it's squaring Mars at the late degrees of Cancer as Mars is about to move into Leo. So there's a loose square, but a square nonetheless as it is growing. So here again is sort of this tension about being brave and addressing my own internal wants and desires and then allowing them to be birthed. The internal wants and desires being Mars in Cancer, and then the conception of Mars moving into Leo is the conception of that endeavor, that expression, that sense of yourself that wants to get out there and maybe endeavor something more playful and artistic and enjoyable, and things that you find entertaining. And up until now, you may not have given yourself permission to really think those things were viable. But as a result of the eclipses that we've experienced, this assertion of yourself might feel much more fruitful than it ever has before. And this effect of Jupiter squaring Pluto and Mars is going to be felt from the middle of May all the way through to the beginning of March, because we're also going to see Jupiter, as it enters Taurus, start to make a conjunction with the North Node. And ultimately, the opposition between Mars and Pluto is going to create a fixed grand square, fixed grand square. So there's really this tension between an old dynamic where I'm being required to be egoless and to let some things feel as if they're eroding or there is a loss, but that loss may be the caterpillar losing its sense of self to give life to the butterfly. And yet the essence of the caterpillar is always reflected in the spine, in the backbone, in the courage of the caterpillar to allow for that transformation. We have the new moon on the 19th in Taurus, a lot of Taurus energy. We have a concentration of planets in Taurus and Aries right now. And where they were primarily in Aries, now we're moving into this idea of being able to identify where history has held us back. And rather than villainizing that history, I get to use it as a platform for stepping up to where I want to go. The new moon will trine Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. So it's giving me a support in this transformation. It's giving me an opportunity to see wisdom through this transformation. The new moon is also trining Mars at the Leo degree, 29 degrees Cancer. So again, this is playing to the idea of what do I want to birth? What's important to my heart? What brings me joy, pleasure, a sense of relaxation. Playtime is where we laugh, where there is no responsibility, where there's no obligation. So there's a favorable aspect to this new moon as we're planting the seeds for that endeavor. We also see the new moon making a favorable aspect to Neptune in Pisces at 27 degrees. This opportunity to really, root into a deeper place, my own creativity. Because Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and because Virgo rules, process and analysis, it does not mean that Virgo is not a creative energy, that Virgo doesn't have the ability to be, wildly talented in things it enjoys. But there's also that push-pull between, will you give yourself permission to find that a viable road to travel? The fixed grand cross, I'm sorry, I keep saying cross, the fixed grand square is bringing to light many of the things that were experienced during the solar eclipse in Aries. Aries being the brave one who's willing to assert itself. There is a feeling of like, it's interesting with Virgo because Virgo, Mercury co-rules Virgo and Gemini. So there's a crossover here. There's that feeling of community attached to the Virgo energy, the being able to look at things from two different points of view. And it also can be in some ways a tethering energy to those outside myself. So I feel with this fixed grand cross that part of the illumination is to trust that as you shift in a direction that feels more enjoyable, pleasurable, fruitful, viable, and makes life more of a thriving situation versus a surviving situation, that it could create tension. But that tension is temporary as you are brave enough to continue to move forward. I think that there are 2 days to be mindful of that I think are going to be really emotional. The first being the 24th of May, when the moon is conjunct Mars, and Mars is in opposition to Pluto. And again, there we kick in the grand fixed cross. So I feel like it's like a ping pong. We get the moon here with Mars, and then it hits this point, then it hits this point, then it goes there, and it seems to just ping pong around, making me feel very emotionally charged about what it is I want to experience. Again, Jupiter is starting a conjunction. It's at 3 degrees or I'm sorry, the North Node is at 3 degrees and Jupiter is creeping up on that. So there's going to be a real expansion for wanting a new experience, a real pull, an appetite, almost feeling starved for a new experience. On the 21st, I'm kind of backing up a little bit, Mars is going to enter Leo. And, this is, again, contributing to that opposition that I was just talking about on the 24th. And the sun has entered Gemini. On the 31st is another day that I think is emotional. And while the moon transits the whole zodiac every month, this time the moon is hitting the south node. And I feel like this is now exasperating where I feel eroded, where I feel less than, where I feel as if I'm not being recognized. It is the moon is hitting the bottom of this fixed grand cross. So there's the end of the month of May feels as if it's a little bit of an emotional roller coaster ride, as epiphanies lead to opportunities, but then there's also a weird dampening or a feeling of emotional journeying. And I say that in a way that makes me feel as if I have to recognize that this moment that is asking me to be egoless. And when I say this, I guess I want to be clear this way. Sometimes to be the hero in our own story, we have to be the villain in somebody else's story. And your willingness to allow that to play out could end up putting you back in the hero position down the line. But if for some reason you give up your own hero because you don't want to be the villain in another story, this could actually tee up more frustration down the line and kick in some energies for Virgo that are more challenging. Like if you're not allowing yourself your own expansion, you may become more critical of those that you feel are thwarting that expansion, or others that you are being of service to. And, you're feeling lost in the mix, and that never really serves anyone. So I really want to offer this idea that sometimes putting ourselves first is actually putting others with us in that priority place, even if they can't see it in the beginning. So that's what I have for the month of May for my Virgo risings. I hope you will like, subscribe, comment, share these videos, and please join me Sunday mornings, 11 a.m. Pacific time, where I do angel readings and a tarot reading for each one of the signs as we look at the transits ahead, and we get the angels' advice for traversing those transits. So Virgo, have a wonderful May. I'll see you soon. Peace out.